Hey y'all, we are live. I'm super excited. Hey y'all. Hey. I'm going to do the little comment things and then I'm going to just talk because I lose focus very quickly. All right. So we are back. For this live, I'm just going to say like a couple housekeeping housekeeping things, what to expect from this live, and I'm just going to dive in. So first things first, I am Adriana. If you're unaware of my brand, I run The Lazy Millennial. What we do is help businesses document, digitalize, and improve their processes. With that document, of course, that means getting things from your mind and down into paper, or in our case, digitalizing them into like a document. Digitalizing more so, again, like putting things on a computer or into like a software so that way it is accessible for your team and all that good stuff. And then improvement, self-explanatory, help you improve it, because of course what worked years ago or even a quarter ago, 3 months ago may not work now. So you have to make sure you keep it updated. And that's what we do here. So if you want to learn more about my company, visit the website. It's there, and that's all I got for you guys for that. got for you guys for that part. So I'm going to be talking about three things. Some of it is lived experience. Some of it is from like previous clients, things we had to navigate, all that good stuff. So hopefully you find this helpful. And also, too, last thing, I will also, because I tend to forget to do this at the end of the live. So if you would like to meet afterwards, if you have any questions, want to see how this applies to your business, any of that stuff, feel free. I will put the link in the comments when I am done to book a 15-minute complimentary call. We can introduce each other, meet and greet, all that good stuff. Again, that'll be after I do this live. Or if you're catching a replay, it will already be in the comments. So here we go. Number one. So we have standard operating procedures, SOPs. I'm pretty sure majority of us knows. If you are still kind of like, I don't really know what that is. Standard operating procedures are simply the way the business is run, how you do business. So literally when you see SOPs, don't worry about the technical stuff. It's how you do your business. It's the documented way you run your business. And there are different components on stuff. I'm not going to get into it too much in this live, but there's different types of SOPs, how you can do them, all that stuff. I'll briefly cover some of it, but again, that's not what this live is about. This is if you already have this standing, you may already have a team, maybe you already delegated, you have a small team, big team, whatever it is. This is to kind of like help navigate so you're releasing these bottlenecks, or you can improve people want to stay at the company, all that good stuff. This is what this is for. So moving on. So the first problem we are going to talk about when people have standard operating procedures already inside their business is that it is disorganized. And by disorganized, I mainly mean that the company may have SOPs again, but they didn't really have like a clear vision or mission. They had no direction of where they're going. I will say for myself, this was my problem when I had my virtual assistant agency. I kind of just created like, my whole thing was we're helping businesses. It's like, great, but like, what do you plan on doing after that? Like, what happens when you reach like a point where a bunch of people are coming to you? Like, why should they stay with me? And then also too, when I was getting team members, it was the same thing. Like, yes, we help people, but like, what else? Like, what are you standing for? Like, what exactly are you trying to take this to? Like, are you trying to like build like this big corporation? Are you trying to stay small? Like, what is it? And not ironically enough, but like I didn't think about that stuff when I first had my agency. So like when people were coming in, it was just like, I didn't really have like a culture or anything because I didn't have anything. Like I was literally running off of like, oh shoot, I'm busy. I'm helping people, but like I have nothing else going for my company right now. That's all I have. And if I grew any bigger, it was just going to be a huge mess. And it was already pretty disorganized for my. Look at mom, just like, that's not gonna work. So the problem is being disorganized, and that normally comes from not having like a clear vision, mission, or even like a strategy. This is why I like talking about breaking things down by quarter, yearly, whatever you want to do it. But all of this stems from being disorganized, and all of that carries into, if you already have a team, that carries into the team. So like if you're disorganized or you started the company disorganized, and you just enhance that, the team's going to bring that out. So like people are going to get lost, things are going to be missing. It's going to be very frustrating, and you can reel it back, but you have to get to the root of it and keep rebuilding. So that's why it's super, super important to make sure you continuously improve everything. So the solution for that, I like to say, I split SOPs into team and personal. So you may hear me say that. I didn't say that at the beginning. So the solution for this organization is to get down to the root of your personal SOPs. And the personal SOPs are simply how you envision the company to run. So like if you already have like C levels, you already have different people in different departments, bring them all together, figure out like what exactly you're trying to take this to. Let whoever you need to know, like, are you building up to sell? Are you trying to replace it with somebody already within the company? What kind of thing, what kind of direction are you working towards? Let the people know. You don't have to let everybody, every single person know, but like there needs to be a general idea. And then for yourself, whoever, if you're the CEO, owner, whatever it is, you need to make sure you know, like, this is where I'm trying to take it. This is the kind of tools I'm using while I'm building. Of course, this is going to change, but like get back to the root of it, like the very beginning. Get back to like if you're just a solopreneur or solo business owner, get back to that root, figure that out. This is where the personal SOPs come in, figure out where you're trying to market at, who you're trying to target, all that good stuff. And that will kind of help alleviate some of the issues, some of the issues with going on. So disorganized solution for that, making sure you work on your personal SOPs, and all that is making sure you go back into doing what you felt like was, God, what was the term I'm looking for? You go back to what you felt like was right. That's not the word I'm looking for, but I already said what it was. So make sure you do stuff that if you're working by yourself, there we go. As if you're working by yourself, and get back into like the departments and spreading that stuff out. So speaking of teams, this leads me to problem number 2, which is not being accessible. So this is, let's say that you have standard operating procedures. You already had a strategy. Like you knew what was going on. Like, girl, I already got my personal SOPs, all this stuff. Like, I already have this stuff documented. Like I got documentation. I don't need that. But you're still struggling. A lot of time, this is where a lot of clients come to us because they're like, okay, I got this stuff. People told me to make these videos. They told me to write this stuff down. But somehow, some way, I'm still in the middle of everything. Like, what happened? Like, what am I missing? So a part of it, there's other reasons, but a part of it is because when he created these SOPs, it was not accessible for everybody. And by accessible, I just simply mean that people can't have access to it. So like a lot of times, like I mentioned before in the beginning, I like putting stuff into like a document. I like to write my stuff out first, and then I transfer it to like a computer program or something like that. A lot of times people sometimes like type things out. Like I'll say Google Docs, we use Google Doc or like OneDrive. They'll put processes in there, and that's totally fine. But when you're bringing in different team members and stuff, not everyone's going to have access to that. And then if you don't already have like a good system in place for like onboarding and stuff, people are going to get lost. So people can't find these files because they don't have access to it. And it's just like, why didn't you have it from the beginning? It just causes a lot of headaches. So of course they're going to go to the head person. The head person's probably like, you already got standard operating procedures. Like, why don't you have this? So one, the main thing, so it's not accessible. You have too many options, or that people can't access the actual standard operating procedures. And then when it comes to not being when it comes to having too many options, trying to gather my thoughts. When it comes to having too many options, sometimes people have like, again, the documents, but they'll also have like software. I used to use like Trainual for certain things. And then sometimes like I had ClickUp, like for myself, when I was doing my virtual assistant stuff, like I had multiple things where I kept procedures at, and that was not necessary. So making sure that one is accessible by everyone, or at least broken down enough to where your other team members can handle that. But that also is not just an accessibility thing. That comes into like onboarding and some other stuff, which I'm not covering today. But problem 2, making sure everyone has access to the necessary standard operating procedures to complete their job. That is the problem. Solution for that is making sure you keep everything in one spot. If you do have multiple things, make sure whatever you have for your, I call it the team SOPs, make sure you have your team SOPs somewhere. If someone has a question, they can access that. Again, I'm going to throw out Trainual because I'm a consultant with them. I love them. They are awesome. I love how super duper easy it is to use. Well, let me not say super duper easy, because my easy is not your easy, but I like it. So that's one of the options. Like I have that, but again, that's not about that. Making sure it's in one spot for everyone to find. So that is the solution for that. Not accessible. Have a common ground thing. Don't keep things. Some of this in a document, some of this is in software, some of that, blah, blah, blah. It just causes a headache, and it causes unnecessary work because we're lazy. Like, we don't need to do all the unnecessary work. All right. And number 3, not inclusive. So I really want to hammer down on this one when it comes to standard operating procedures, because I feel like I really feel like this part is like really outdated for many businesses, and even too when it comes to doing online businesses too, it's really like people still follow like the corporate like mindset when it comes to doing standard operating procedures. And like, yes, there is some things you actually need to focus on. Like you need to make sure you're compliant. Like you need to make sure you have all that stuff. Like you need to make sure if you have employees, you need to make sure they know their rights and all that good stuff. Like you need to have that in document, no matter how boring or whatever it may seem. You need to have that particular stuff. Now, what I'm mainly focusing on when I'm saying that it's not inclusive is mainly how things are actually documented, or if you have videos, like how they are actually ran. So, being full disclosure, I have ADHD among some other mental health things. So, when it comes to doing like videos, like a lot of times whenever I went to corporations and stuff, or whenever I was working a 9 to 5, they would have like the super long videos. Like I'll spend days. They'll give me like bits by bits, or they'll give me like these pamphlets or these books. Like make sure you look over the policy and stuff. Like yes, I did look through it, but like when it comes to me in videos, I only have like a short attention span to do certain things. So like after that, it's just like I don't hear anything. So like yes, I can check things off and stuff, but like it doesn't stick until I'm actually like doing the work and maybe having some other questions about it or something I can refer back to. And a lot of times too, people did not have anything to refer back on. So that was like my hey y'all, that was my thing. I'm gonna do the stuff. But that was my thing. So when it comes to inclusion, I always tell people make sure you kind of you build these SOPs in anticipation for other things. Like yeah, you don't have to like plan for people like hiring people with disabilities and stuff. Like you may not plan for that, but like you want to take the initiative. Like you're in a leadership position. You want to take the initiative. Like, okay, I'm doing this. Let me make sure I have this set up in the event something like that does happen. Because like sometimes I'm not gonna always say out front, like I have a hard time focusing because I'm gonna be afraid I'm gonna lose my job. Like I'm not gonna say certain things out loud, or I'm gonna let my leader, I mean, yes, in the perfect world, I may let them know that, but I'm not gonna do that. So like as the leader and when we're doing these things, we want to make sure that we already have this stuff set, or at least to our best of our ability. So like the solution for this, like if you're not inclusive, like you have these long videos, you have print pamphlets or books or whatever it is. I can't remember what it's called. You have like the printed SOPs, but like you have that really tiny font, like it's like what 10, 12 points or whatever. Little simple swaps will help you alleviate that. So like if you want to be more inclusive inside your business or your company when you're doing standard operating procedures, or even if you're just starting out, carry on these tips too. So number one, definitely making the video shorter. Like we can get straight to the point. Like TikTok, all these other platforms have proved how short our attention span is, but also how quickly you can get to a point, because you want to capture people's attention. And yes, there's going to be certain instances like, yeah, you're going to have to do stuff really long, like especially if you're doing something like super hard or like a specialty service. Like, yeah, that's going to take a while. Like that cannot be sped up. But for certain things, like especially like how the company runs, like the mission, vision, all that basics, not, yeah, honestly, yeah, kind of basic. All the basic information that people can kind of like go back to, you want to make sure that's easy. Like you want to make sure that's easy and simple enough for them to go. Like if they want to look for like a file, or like they need to remember how to do like a step for I know for myself, I'll just use myself as an example. So like if one of my contractors need to look up something where how to access like the video content in order to do like the what I call the blog style SOPs, like they're gonna have to access, we keep one common thing so it's accessible for all of them. Everyone has access. And then also too, they have a quick video, they can type it in, they get the video, they have the text, all that good stuff, wham bam, it's done. And I'm not in the middle of all of it. But like I said, video's not too long. I'm trying to keep it. I try not to ramble because I ramble a lot. So making sure whenever you do the videos, making sure they're short if you can. Ideally, the shorter the better. But of course, if it's specialty stuff, some things gonna be longer. But for the majority of videos, you want to make sure you keep it short. Also, too, making sure you have captions. Like I mentioned before, again, it is hard for me to focus. But like when I sometimes put captions on for myself just because it gives me like the extra accountability. Like, okay, yes, they're talking, but I don't always catch words. So like having the captions in the videos is super helpful. Another helpful thing too is I call it blog style SOPs, but like having actual text or like at least the transcript. That's really helpful. Transcript, or if you want to do like be fancy, doing like the screenshot, like step one, do, step two, do, and you have the photos and stuff, like whatever it is, making sure you have different options. That's pretty much what I was going to get with that. make sure you have different options when it comes to including other people. Like, you want to anticipate the different learning styles, you want to anticipate disabilities, like you want to have the options available. Like, you may not have it outright, but you want to have the option available. Like, people don't want to ask outright. They don't want to seem like a burden. They don't want to seem like a burden. Like, yeah, that's pretty much it. They don't want to seem like a burden. Like, no one wants to ask outright. Like I mentioned, like, I don't want to say I have a hard time focusing. Can you do this for me? Like, no one wants to say that. And there's already so much fear and stuff talking to leadership. So if you take the initiative, having this stuff done, it makes things a whole lot easier. So those are my 3 things. So just kind of like recap, because again, I kind of interject stories and I ramble. So I want to make sure you got the point. So number 1 is making sure, the problem with when you have standard operating procedures is having it very disorganized. And by disorganized, I mean that you didn't really have a strategy or vision, you didn't have any of that stuff, and you kind of brought out a team that's just like, what next? So that was one of the problems. And the solution for that was to make sure you go back to the very beginning, as if you were a solo business owner, or if you were working with people, like start out a business like that, making sure you set up the departments, figuring out what you want them to do, where you want them to go. Pretty much you're going to map out the beginning of the stuff and also the exit plan for yourself. So like, how do you want things to run when you're gone? Like things like that. You want to start getting to the rotation for that. So I call that personal standard operating procedures. There's probably another fancier term I cannot think of right now, but there's that. And that's the solution for that. So number 2, making sure, the problem number 2 was it was not accessible. Let me go back there. Okay, so yeah, I did disorganized. Number 2, not accessible. And with that, making sure you keep everything in a common ground. It's okay if you want to use others, platforms, software, all that good stuff. But if you are delegating something out, you want to make sure everything is in ideally one software, so that way everyone can access, everyone can get it, and you don't have to worry about all the problems and stuff. And then finally, inclusion. All you need to do, the solution here, is to make sure you have different variations of your procedures to share with your team. So that way people don't feel left out, or because again, if they feel left out, they're probably going to leave. And if you want to retain your current team, you want to make sure you are ahead of the game and making sure you have all this stuff set. So with that being said, I'm going to wrap this up. I hope these 3 tips help. If you have any other questions, again, I will put my booking link in the comments. If you want me 15 minutes, if you want me to break it down a little bit more to show you with your example, feel free to use that link I'm going to drop in the comments. If you want to learn more about the Lazy Millennial, about how we help businesses, again, visit the website. We help, again, document, digitalize, and improve the processes. We do not do anything else. Literally, we just help with standard operating procedures and all that good stuff, and delegate the rest, because that's what we are. Yeah, so I will look through, make sure I answer anything. Thanks, y'all. All right. Well, that's all I got for y'all. I'll be in the LinkedIn comments. And if you have any questions, again, just reach out. I'm here. Y'all have a great Tuesday.